Colin, this is wheeler-dealer stuff. This is not wheeler-dealer. This is not how you run a government.
Hello, Henry.
Hi.
Hello, Colin.
Hello, Adam.
First of all, hello there. First of all, Colin, congratulations on your achievements.
Thank you. I had good teams.
My question is, judging by the situation with our prisons in the UK, which seems to be bulging with prisoners, and there seems to be chaotic at the moment, the situation with prisons. What's your view on deporting a lot of these foreign prisoners, which make up quite a lion's share of prisons in the UK, deporting them back to their own country rather than, the British taxpayer, paying for their accommodation and food and everything, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
And I just wanted to see what your view was on that.
It's just shy of 10%, isn't it, I think, of the prison population?
It's not just my view, Adam, it's a reform view as well. We've got 87,000 prison places in this country. We've now got 88,500 prisoners in there. Something like 10,400 of those are foreign nationals. Our policy, and I agree with it wholeheartedly, is that every single one of those should be deported back whence they came, and that would then free up 10,400 spaces in our prisons for criminals here, and we wouldn't see this awful business that we've seen from the government, whereby robbers and thieves, and crucially domestic abusers, are released back onto the streets after serving as little as 20% of their sentences. That's not justice for the victims of those crimes. They have an expectation that, it's hard enough to get people before a court and get them convicted of offences like that, and they then get sentenced by the judge, and the government decide that they can serve 20% of their sentence and they're back out again. That should not happen. It will not happen with reform.
Talking of prisoners and prisons, there was this idea for Nightingale prisons that Nigel Farage spoke about on disused MOD sites. I mean, is that really the right place to have prisoners, do you think? We've already got uproar when it comes to hotels in certain areas. If people know that their MOD base has got however many violent prisoners there...
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I'm not sure that the so-called Nightingale prisons would have the violent prisoners there, because I think the degree of security that you want for your Category A prisoners is probably not something that's easily done at an RAF base. But certainly in terms of open prisons or lower risk offenders, I don't see any problem with that. We saw across the Atlantic that they seem to have created this alligator Alcatraz, as it's called, in 8 days. Although I see some judges made some ruling about it today, so I'm not sure where that goes. But I think it's about doing it quickly if we're going to do it, because, to be quite honest, it would take 8 days to fill the planning forms in this country, wouldn't it, really?
Well, there's also your idea to send some prisoners abroad, to El Salvador.
That was, I mean... If you can offshore it, if you need the space and you can offshore it, then we offshore everything else in this country, it seems, at the moment. So why not offshore our prisoners?
At a time where we're trying to reduce the prison population, you might not agree, but with the propensity for short sentences, for example, are we really going to need all of that space?
I think if we're successful in fixing the police so that crime eventually comes down, then ultimately the aim's got to be that we don't need the space. But in the meantime, I think we're probably, there's going to be a tipping point, isn't there, where you're probably going to have to increase the prison population, and then your successes will then mean that it falls after that. But that's probably an argument for saying let's have temporary structures like a Nightingale prison.
But there is a genuine possibility that we would offshore prisoners to El Salvador.
I'm not sure El Salvador would want them, but I think...
that's the country that Nigel Farage mentioned.
He did. I can't spep for Nigel.
And he said he hadn't spoken to the government.
No, I'm sure he hadn't. But
why mention it then?
Well, why did Keir Starmer mention to the Albanian president we were going to send immigrants there when he hadn't mentioned it to him? I mean, I don't know. You'll have to ask him. But the concept of offshoring prison spaces, I think, is a sound one, if that's what we need to do. OK,
in terms of the general cost, and look, I appreciate you're not sort of Reform's chief economist, but no. £17 billion was the figure given by Nigel Farage for all of these policing measures. I mean, that's a huge sum of money. That's more than the Ministry of Justice annual budget.
Well, it might be. But I think there's going to come a time soon, Henry, when and this is absolutely no disrespect to journalists. I'm very fond of a lot of journalists. That people realise that this isn't the gotcha question that you think it is, because when you look at the way in which government spending, public spending, local authority spending as well, is set up, there is an awful lot on the debit side which is there because it's been there for ages and nobody likes to address it. And the name of the party, Reform, is there for a reason. It's because we want to do things differently. And so, just off the top of my head, at the moment, probably £7 million a day for asylum seekers. Well, if we stop those, then that's
for the hotels.
For the hotels and the houses of multiple occupation as well. Something like 13 million for foreign aid. Green subsidies, just off the top of my head. If we start looking at things like that, I'll tell you a story. It's not
going to be easy to turn around overnight, though, Colin, is it? These measures you're talking about, you can't find 17 billion quid off around the back of a sofa. I mean, you've got to be straight with people. Is this going to come through tax rises, or is this going to come through cutting public services? And so far, Nigel Farage is trying to do both.
Right. Look, story. Okay, police officer. She needs to make a presentation. She needs a widget, an adapter to make her computer talk to the screen. She goes online onto the internal intranet, looks at the catalogue. The piece she needs is $49.99 and it's 2 weeks to come. That's too long for her. She gets her phone out, she goes onto her Amazon account, gets the same thing for $4.99 delivered tomorrow, and she's off and running. Now, I'm not advocating that we should make people pay out of their own pockets. Of course not, but they claim it back. If you repeat that tens of thousands of times a day, all over public service in every school, every
Colin, this is wheeler-dealer stuff. This is not how you run a government.
It's the way in which our money is tipped down the drain by public services because of the procurement. You remember the things where the NHS was saying, if you've got free prescriptions, please don't ask for paracetamol because it costs us £1.60 and you can buy it for 32 pence in Tesco's. I'm not the only person who thought, well, why?
There are huge problems there, but
why doesn't the NHS go to Tesco's?
Government after government after government trying to cut so-called waste.
No, they haven't. They haven't addressed the procurement. They haven't addressed the waste in dealing with things such as foreign aid, where we've put so much. I mean, we've eaten into it a bit now, haven't we? Because of the defence commitments that we're trying to run to. There are things that are just there on the debit side of the balance sheet for both national and local government, which are there because nobody has questioned them for the last 30 years.
We've got to be straight, though, on the finances, though. And I know I'm not going to bang on about this the whole time, but taxes are... You're advocating for 30,000 more police on the streets.
Yes.
You want to see, something I happen to agree with as well, more police stations opening. When you were a copper, there'd have been 100 police stations in London that were open.
When I retired, there were 136 front counters in London. They're going down to...
20. We're going down to 20.
Yeah.
It's something we agree on. But it costs money, and taxes are going to have to go up to pay for this. You've got to accept that. You've got to be straight with people.
I'm sure that there are things we can find which will mean that won't have to happen.
But this is it's not just policing, this is in every area. There's promise after promise, and we get told about cutting net zero, we get told about finding money through procurement. I mean, I think if it was that easy, Rachel Reeves would be doing that, wouldn't she?
No, I'm not sure she can do anything that's easy or not, to be honest.
OK, more calls coming in.